Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. One of the dark pages of history after the demise of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the way that his daughter was behaved and treated. We see that after the demise of the Prophet, there was a kind of challenge in the Islamic society in Medina for the caliphate after the Prophet. And it's the time that there are threats like the Rome, like the Persia, the fear that they may attack the Islamic world after the Prophet. There were some rebellions inside, like the Musaylamat al-Kadhab, the person who claimed to be a prophet, and those who were renegades. There were some challenges, and the Muslims had to face with all these difficulties. And in all these ups and downs, we see that, unfortunately, one of the very first things and issues they put in the agenda was to mistreat the household of the Prophet. They forced them to come and pay their allegiance to the first caliph, and they rejected, saying that this is not by any means a proper decision for the Muslims. And you see that even in Sahih al-Bukhari, the book Sahih al-Bukhari, this has been narrated by from the second caliph, saying that the way that the first caliph was chosen was a mistake, that God protected us from its side effects. Anyhow, at that moment, at the very moment, household of the Prophet didn't see this appointment to be a proper one. And it was not a personal matter for themselves, but they were seeing that this is not a good decision for the Muslims, for the Islamic world. So something has to be done. So they didn't pay their allegiance. But the caliph insisted on paying and demanding their allegiance. And they put heavy pressure on household of the Prophet, on Lady Fatima Zahra, and Imam Ali, and those who were disagreed with the choosing of the first caliph. So they were not ready and likely to pay their allegiance. So they gathered in the house of Imam Ali, and they didn't do anything to rebel against the caliph. No, they just didn't pay their allegiance, and they had this very right to do so. But the way that they were treated was that it was very harsh. Coming to the house of Imam Ali, when Lady Fatima went behind the door, saying that, "What do you want from us? We have already lost the Prophet, and we are mourning for the Prophet, so we are not in good condition, so let us alone." But they said, "No, we demand you to pay allegiance, or you will be burnt all in this house." Unfortunately, fire was brought to the door of Lady Fatima. The door was burnt, and Lady was attacked, and while she was behind the door, and she was injured because of it. And when the men entered the house, and when they entered the house and arrested the men, also Imam Ali alayhi salam taking them towards the mosque to force them to pay their allegiance. So this is one of the very unforgettable and very dark scenes in the Islamic history that cannot be forgiven. Also, this has been narrated from the first caliph himself, that at the end of his life, he said, "I wish I didn't do three things." One of them was that, "I wish I didn't break the door of Fatima, Salamullah alayha." Ibn Abi al-Hadid, a Mu'tazili Sunni scholar, talking about those days and the event of taking Imam Ali alayhi salam to the mosque, he describes it this way: وهيكل العظمة والقداسة أمير المؤمنين كان يقاد كالجمل المغشوش. Imam Ali alayhi salam, this great man of Allah, was arrested while his hands were folded and tied. He was being taken towards the mosque with lots of disrespect and humiliation, and people were watching this. وَالنَّاسُ يَنْظُرُونَ. Then he says that Lady Fatima came after Imam Ali. وَسَيِّدَةُ النِّسَاءِ تَصْرُخْ وَتُبَلْبِلْ. Lady Fatima Zahra was calling those people, خَلُّوا عَنْ ابْنَ أَمِّي أَوْ لَأَكْشِفْ لِلدُّعَاء. She said, let my husband go, or I will curse you all. And this is not unbelievable. They have come, imagine, few days after the demise of the Prophet. The household are mourning for the Prophet. Their house is burnt. And Imam Ali, this great man of Allah, is being taken to the mosque with his hands tied. And Lady Fatima Zahra comes, saying that let my husband go, or I will curse you. What they do is that they are not affected by this. Ibn Abi al-Hadid says, they turned to Lady Fatima Salamullah alayha and started beating her. He describes it saying that وَسَوَّدُوا بِالضَّرْبِ مِنْهَا بَطْنَهَا كَيْ تَرْجَعَ. They turned to Lady and started beating her with the lashes in their hands. Then her body turned black because of those strikes that were beaten on her body. So a lady who had to be respected by Muslims, they knew that the Prophet advised and said so many times that Fatima is part of my body. Whatever bothers her bothers me. This is so important point. This is for all fathers. Any father who hears something bad which has been happened to his daughter might get unhappy. So this is not unique, specific to the Prophet. So whatever makes your daughter unhappy makes you unhappy. But what is specific with Lady Fatima and the Prophet is that the Prophet says she is a part of my body. You know, your daughter might be in another city, might be in another house, so she might be injured, she might be mistreated. You don't know about it, so you don't get upset. But the moment you know about it, you might be upset because of what has happened to your daughter. But the difference is that the Prophet says, Fatima is part of my body. Imagine if something has happened to one of your parts of your body, something happens to your leg, something happens to your hand, all your body gets aware of it, and the pain will be understood by all. This is the difference, that the Prophet says Fatima is part of my body. So whatever makes her unhappy, as if something has happened to my own body and I get aware of it, the pain will be felt by the Prophet. The pain that is done to Lady Fatima is felt by the Prophet. And this is specific to Lady Fatima and the Prophet. And the Prophet said, whatever makes her unhappy makes me unhappy. And they made the Prophet unhappy by making Fatima unhappy and being mistreated very and immediately after the demise of the Prophet. And beside it, they demanded fadak, which was gifted to the Lady Fatima at the time of the Prophet. They took it out of Lady's hand to make her empty-handed from financial support of that garden. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all of us to know Lady and Ahlul Bayt better and to be among their true followers, inshallah.